Hey, welcome to Ditch Digger CEO. I got my buddy Chris with me helping me out as always. I've got an all-star Ditch Digger CEO with us today. A young man that I got to know, boy, years ago. Man, I'm not sure if it was 8 years ago, nine, whatever it was. It's been a while since I got to meet this young man, to see a fire in his belly, knowing that he was going to be amazing success in his life, and he's an amazing father, husband, all the things I want to see in my buddy. So I'm happy as heck to be able to have Parker on today, Chris. So let's welcome, let's welcome Parker. How are you, buddy?
Hey, man. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's awesome having you on. I mean, again, I remember the days I first met you years ago, and you're young, you're a kid today in my eyes, but was you're really you were really a kid then, but even then you were a veteran in business because you started like when you're like 10 years old. But tell- so Parker runs a great organization, a great paving company, Diamond Group. You call it Diamond Group or what's how do you
Good solutions.
Diamond Solutions, and just does an awesome job in our industry. We know Parker well because we partner with him across the country. Our companies partner with Parker, and we know we can always rely on excellence every time we hire Parker and his team, because Parker is a man of his word, that has all the core values that we believe we need to be successful in business. So I want you to just tell your story, buddy, and I'll interact here and there, and then Chris is going to come up with some questions in the end and some nuggets he takes away. So I want to hear about, the start of your business at an age that very seldom have you heard people start a business at that age. So tell us about the start.
Yeah. Well, so my dad was when I was 17, he started Diamond Asphalt. And so kind of just before I had went to college, he started this company, and I'm, working in the summers for my dad. So that was kind of the inception. I think that was 15 years ago. We started off spray patching potholes. I don't know, what do you call that? It's on the roads. We did it for about 3 months, and then everything that we didn't hold. And so we're just good thing we didn't do much work. So quickly learned, and then we moved from that to infrared. So infrared was kind of the beginning of Diamond, and then moved into seal coating, crack sealing.
So let me tell you that what you guys did there was pretty amazing. Really, actually, you guys dove into an industry and started differentiating, understanding it. You wanted to differentiate from everybody else in order to get started, even right. Most companies, it takes them 10, 15 years to figure out if they want great customers and they want to serve their industry better than the competition. They'd better start figuring out how to differentiate from the normal seal coating, paving, patching world. You guys dove right into it. You said, "Oh, we're gonna differentiate right away with the spray patching, which could be a great product if it's built right. It's just tough to find a product there that's been superior." And then infrared, something we started 15 years, 10, 15 years in the business, and differentiate us, right? It's a product that you have to know and you have to be good at to be able to deliver a great product, but it's definitely a differentiator. So you guys figured that out right away, that here's a couple of things we're going to do to differentiate and start our business. So tell us more.
Yeah. So that was, so not too long into that was, we started seal coating, and we weren't, the line striping was getting subbed out, obviously, right? That's how it works. And my buddy, actually one of my best friends in high school, he's like, "Hey man, I have an old line striper. Like my family has a line striper that my dad brought for my other brothers that we're not using, like this totally random." And so I was like, he's like, "You could have it." And so I was like, "Dad, could I paint for you and kind of have, so I started streamline striping. Um, I was 19, 20 years old, and started painting for my dad. And so that kind of my part of the business, if you will. Right. And so when I went to college, I was working the dining common serving food, making about $5 an hour. And I thought, man, I go home in the summers and make pretty good money. Striping lines. Maybe I should see if there's some seal coaters down here. When I was in Greenville, South Carolina at Bob Jones. And so I did. I called a couple seal coaters, and I ended up getting a contract for CVS, painting 200 CVSs in 4 states. And just, I bought a huge enclosed trailer and traveled around. I had living quarters in the front, and walls on the side with, 500 gallons of paint stored on the sides, and 2 line stripers. And on a good night, I do 8 CVSs a night. I hope I wasn't married to at the time, but she had created my wife now, she had created an Excel sheet with, back in the days where I think it was a MapQuest we used to like get the route, and the efficiency, and I just plug in the next address, and it was like, where am I going next? and I'd just drive to the next CVS, and it would be 2 a.m, and I'd pull in, and crap, there's no lights on. Uh,
So you were like about 18, 19 years old when this was going on, or what? How old were you?
I was 21 when when I got that contract.
21. Okay. So a 20-year-old kid with a year left in college, or were you done with college at this point?
I never finished. I went my first year and then ended up 2 other semesters. So I had 3 years that I was in college, out of college, around college, but I was trying to go debt free. And so I'd go in the summers and fall and try to make money in asphalt, and then go back in the spring and pay for it. And
So do you know that your story of college is exactly like Austin's? 3 years of in and out, 3.5 years in and out of college. He went, he was trying to work. He had his own business that he started, and building his own business, he was making really good money. And he eventually he asked his mom, because I told him he didn't have to go in the first place, but his mom kind of really wanted him to go. She was proud of the fact her first child is going to college. And anyway, eventually both his sisters were in college at that point, and he asked if he could drop out. And she had a hard time with it for about maybe a day, and then she was over it. But either way, he dropped out. Boy, he jumped in the business world, and like you, embraced it all and loves it, and has become a leader, just as you have, a leader of people. And the college education maybe got him a little bit of insight in different things, but he learned way more in business and just diving into business than he ever thought he would in school, right? For some of us, I think that's the case. So that's pretty wild. I didn't even realize that all these years I've known you, that was exactly the same story Austin is.
yeah, that's cool.
Okay, so you're striping parking lots all over. Where did that go to from there? And then what? Tell me about your dad's business at that point. Where's your dad's business going?
Yeah, so I was working with my dad in the summers and falls and painting lines for him, and then I was running the infrared crew and um, trying to think. So after I got the contract, that was kind of a moment, right? When I left my dad in the middle of the season, I was like, Dad, I got an opportunity here, and I think there were some tears. And my dad's not a crier, so I was like, man, my son's leaving. You're kind of leaving. It was a small operation. We felt the loss of any person. So anyway, I went and striped those CVSs, and about, I don't know, man, 70% of the way through, I had a week of rain in Walterboro, South Carolina. And I thought, I don't want to sit in this enclosed trailer, no windows. I mean, that sucks, right? So it was raining all week long. And so I'm like, I'm going to go see my brother, take a little break. He's up in Ohio. So I 21 years old. I think a tongue lock on the trailer, a padlock on the door. I'm good, right? So I leave this trailer 12 hours, go to Ohio for the week, return a week later. So I arrive at 12:10 at night to my this parking lot, and on camera the next morning, the investigators, the detectives that came out, my trailer was gone. I got back, and so 12 o'clock, so 10 minutes prior to me getting back, they had F-150'd my huge trailer riding dirty out of that Walmart. You can see him on camera just chugging along, trying to take it. And man, I rolled into that parking lot at 12:10, thought had put in the wrong address. I'm tired, ready to go to bed, and I'm like, am I in the wrong Walmart? There's Walmarts everywhere. So did I go to the wrong part of the country? I've been just kind of delusional. And I pulled up and I asked the guy that was walking into the store, I said, hey, did you see a trailer over there? And he's like, you mean that big black one that's been there all week? And I said, yeah. And he said, I just got my cigarettes before I clocked in and it was just there. And I was like, what? And I was like, 5 minutes ago. I started driving around, and it was right by I-94. And so the story is that people say that people would pick up trailers and just haul them, I guess, I don't know, sell them in Florida or wherever. So, but man, God was in that. So I slept in my truck in that parking lot that night, woke up the next morning, and the guy who my contract was for, his name was Tab. And I called Tab and I said, I need work. And so he said, come on out to the job site in Lawrence, South Carolina. They were building a bank. And I rolled up on site, and Ray Goodwin was with the superintendent. And he said, hey, do you know how to drive that front end loader? And again, delegating was not something that was, hadn't really happened a whole lot back home. So big front end loader, ladder to climb up to get in it. He said, you know how to run that? He said, no, I can figure it out. And he said, I need that pile right there moved into that dump truck. And I was like, sweet. Like, here we go. So I climbed up in it, and I like, you start this thing. So I lean out, hey, Ray, how do you start it? He tells me. And so I get up there, and I'm having the time of my life running this big piece of equipment. And I would say that was pretty pivotal for me. Like, seeing a different way of doing things, seeing a field go to a bank, We're pouring sidewalks, we're paving, we're grading, we're putting in manhole, all the stuff. And I'm like, this is a little different than an infrared, 5x5
Yeah.
floor.
How long did you do that for?
About a month. So it took insurance about a month to come in.
Never found that trailer?
Never found the trailer. I think it was like 3 years later, I got a call from Walterboro, South Carolina. I thought, and it was the police saying, hey, we're going to close out your file. And I was like, okay, you can close it out. So about a month later, the insurance kicked in. I got brand new trailer, new stripers, didn't cover the cost of paint. I had just reloaded with 500 gallons of paint. So all that was gone. And I reloaded back up and finished it out.
So your customers were okay with that month delay and everything else. They're patient for you.
They were. It caused a little bit of problems because it pushed me into some colder temperatures. So I think I had on, 190 CVSs, I had 2 storage where it tracked paint into the store. And for CVS, I think that was enough that I didn't get the contract for.
So that's only like 12 years ago that happened, and then and your start, right? You're 33 now,
Right.
Okay. All right. So then tell us the roadmap to where you're at today. This amazing growth that you've had over the last 12 years.
And so it's kind of some high flyer.
And by the way, tell feeding your family too. I love Hope. She's amazing, and I want to hear about Hope and your transition or transition. Yeah, from a guy busting your butt to a young married man and a family and all the other things. Okay.
Yeah, so I'll try to keep a high level, and you kind of guide me in as you want to dive. So got married when I was 22, it's 2012, and when I was 24, we SBA loan to buy my dad out. When I came back from that stint with Tab, I had a pretty big head. Hey, Dad, I've learned all these things, and I need to teach you a few things. And so it did not go well, as you can imagine. We butted heads, had some pretty intense fights, and I was like, "Hey, man, I want a dad, not a boss." And into the 2011 or 2012, I was like, "Hey, man, here are the keys to the equipment. I'm going to go." I didn't tell him I was going to start my own company, but I'm like, "I'm done working for you." That was the beginning of about 3 years of us not talking. So it was rough. So bought him out, SBA loan, and the company, I was 22, right? Or whatever, 24. So no fear of growth, no fear of failure, had nothing to lose. And so we started doubling. And we went from 200,000 to 400 to 800 to 1.2 to 3 point, but it was almost a double every year for about the next 5 years. And that gets us to about 2017. I think we got into paving in 2016. 2017 was the year our first child was born, Letta. And that was a tough year financially for the business. So I'll rewind briefly. Hope has chronic health issues, as you've seen her mostly in a wheelchair. So that's a pretty big part of the story, right? When we got married about a month into that, she had a really severe onset of what we believe now is kind of a mold exposure. Appeared as an autoimmune, but she was knocked out, man. I mean, she couldn't walk, she couldn't lift her hand, she was basically bedridden. So that was a pretty foundational in terms of how do I say it? In terms of learning how to delegate. Again, just that idea of like, we thought she was gonna die, right? She had MS, all of the stuff was like she looked awful. So it was like, do I want to be out in the field for 15-hour days, 16-hour days? While my wife, she couldn't walk, so I really had to be home with her. So it was early on, I had to learn how to delegate, give clear instructions. To this day, our maps that we give to our customers are very detailed. And it's kind of funny if you think back, that was one of the big things. I needed my crews to know exactly where the repairs were at because I couldn't be there to paint anything. I needed them to know, here's your orders, go do it.
So think about the lessons there, right? And when you look back, and I look back to some we have very similar stories, right? I was partners with my dad I started this paving maintenance business, and a couple of years later partnered with my dad. Eventually got a fist fight on a job. Was our last fist fight, and I tell him, either I'm buying you or you're buying me out. We ended up 6 months later had a deal to buy him out. But either way, right? Very similar stuff. It wasn't until I had a major problem in my business, battling the unions in Chicago unions for a few years, that I actually was forced to delegate, forced to get out of the field. And that was a big blessing for me, a huge blessing, right? Because you can't grow a business. Number one, your business is not very sustainable if it's all about you. If it can't operate with you, there's really no value, right, Parker? And you've created a sustainable business because of your ability to delegate. And so many small businesses don't understand that, right? They think that, because they love the business, it's good that they're a part of every part of the business. And unfortunately, that's not good for the sustainable business, sustainable sense of that business. And it's also not good for your teammates who can't grow because you're going to start their growth. So all that points to the fact that the sooner you get to be very good at delegating a business, hopefully you're passionate about, you understand that it's an amazing opportunity to create value, a value proposition that doesn't have to have you part of it every day. And therefore, then you create enterprise value because your business is worth it. As a matter of fact, we had a prep call yesterday. I said, you need to partner with me, dude. We need to invest in you, and we need to grow this thing even 10 times faster. And you're a guy that doesn't need anybody to help you or grow you because you understand it all. But it's your ability to delegate today and that blessings that pushed you into that, right? So, go forward. But I see it as one of your strong points at a young age, and it's not common. So,
Well, thank you. Now, I mean, I always say I look at God, how he providentially and sovereignly was part of the story. And I think of, I didn't wake up one day and was like, man, I'm really passionate about delegating. It was necessity, right? I mean, you can't take credit for that. I mean, when your wife is that sick, if you have your priorities, I think somewhat straight, I don't understand, I had them totally straight, but somewhat straight. I knew that I cared more about her than I did about making money and about a business. So, but by necessity, you still got to make money. Like there's kind of a pull here, but
yeah.
hey, you guys go out and do the work. I could do the sales and the stuff from the office. And anyway, so yeah, moving forward, 2017, our Letta was born. And to be honest, man, I think I'd over delegated. Right? It was kind of a year of like, we're flying high, we've doubled. We're at 5 million at this point. What was that? 4 years into having bought my dad out. I think if I'm saying that right, maybe, great culture. We're having leadership trainings, John Maxwell trainings. I didn't realize that we were having the whole company come from, we had a shop in Greenville, Michigan and an office in Midland, Michigan. It's about a 2.5-hour drive across the state. And, we were doing cool things, but, it was in that spring of 2018 that I got a call from my CFO and he said, hey, Parker, we're about 2 weeks away from not making payroll. And I was like, okay, why are we just finding out about this now? And there's a long story here, but God had brought this guy into my life, Tom. I didn't really know why, but I knew that Tom's family came from money and they had things going on. And so when I got that call, I thought I actually was 30 minutes away from having a meeting with Tom at lunch. And I thought, well, maybe this is why God brought Tom. I don't know. So I was like, I don't want to be the next guy to ask this guy for money, but I'm going to ask. So I made the ask and he said, you need to meet my dad and his dad, Ron. Basically, he's a business mentor. And so I'll never forget him pulling his glasses down on his nose. And he said, Parker, he looked at my financials and he said, you're bankrupt on paper. You know that, right? And I was like, nope, didn't know that. And so he walked with me through that. We did not file bankruptcy, but he kind of told me this is what bankruptcy looks like. And I said, what is the other option? And he said, well, we can try to make the ship float if you want, but it's going to be tough. And I said, put me back in, I want round 2. And so, it's exactly what we did. And it was tough. It was hard. We got lean. But we learned how to track. Every day I called Ron. He said, you call me every day, just like my sons do. And I'll mentor you. And he also said, I'll buy 10% of your company for $5,000. And I said, $5,000? He said, well, you're bankrupt, so you're worth nothing. So 5,000 is generous. And that's fair. But man, for about 2 years, I called Ron every day around 4:35. And he taught me how stupid I was. Very, very kindly, but sometimes not so kindly. But he'd ask me the same questions. He just taught me business, man.
No, he taught you how smart you were because you actually, if you listen, if you understand that the mentorship from a person that's got this, this experience that you don't have, this wisdom that you don't have, you're a smart young guy to be calling that guy every day, especially because you're taking advantage. He's willing to do that. That's worth way, way more than that 10% interest that he took in your business, right? That mentorship is worth way more than that. So what a blessing it is that you listened to him. You're smart enough to value that time and value his time, because I'm sure he wouldn't have kept doing that if he didn't see you actually valuing it and respecting this time, right? And I'm sure you did a great job of that. What was Ron's business, Parker?
Part owner of Airgas, and then Airgas sold. And he was one of the, I think, 6 owners. And then, he kind of went from there.
What was Airgas? Is that is that what do you call a company?
Oxen.
Auction.
Yeah. We said it was like, it was the most, pretty wild business model, right? You suck the air and turn it into money. It was pretty cool. He has some cool stories.
Yeah. No doubt. And is Ron still a mentor of yours?
I don't talk to Ron obviously near as much as I used to, but
but I mean, if you call him here or there,
of course, yeah. I mean,
cool.
It's definitely not as much as he for sure, but I need to give him a shout.
All right. So is he still a partner?
Yeah, 2 or 3 years ago, we bought him out. Company was starting to take off again. It was like, probably a good time to.
How'd you do that? Did you get that valuation of the business? Did you just have an estimated valuation you agreed on, or what?
He had introduced me to his CPA, and so we used the same person, and so it was kind of like hey, I could represent both of you guys. Ron was cool with that. He gave us a kind of back of the napkin valuation and said, this is what Ron's, percentage would be. And so we wrote him a check and.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Now, so any other mentors in your life that you think about that you say, gosh, that person came in my life for a reason. God put this person in my life for a reason. God, gosh, you know what? He definitely helped me, right? In any way, whether it's a family member, friend, business leader, or whatever.
Well, one of the things I think about when I think about what has made Diamond successful, number one, I would say God, and that's not just me saying that. I can tell you probably hundreds of stories of how God has just done things that I can't explain, introduced me to people that I wouldn't have known. There's no way I would have met them. I mean, I'll tell you this real quick. This is on Austin, your son, EOS was a huge part of our business shifting. And he was one of the second, I was at a John Maxwell conference where somebody said, you should check out the book Traction. And within a week of that, Austin said, you should check out the book Traction. I asked him what he was reading. And I thought, well, maybe I should listen. Same book, too, kind of odd, And,
yeah.
And, 3 months we were on Traction and EOS and it was, we're still on it today. It was huge. So,
cool.
Sure, they came from that. Clearly was God. The second thing I would just say is the people that have been around us, the people, that Diamond has in it. And we have just an awesome team. The leadership team from that down to the boots on the ground, everybody has these are just incredible people. Every one of them I'm proud of. So,
tell me about, you can talk about people all day long. And I think, sometimes it happens naturally just because a person that leads has this innate ability to hire right and then inspire right. But I really believe that, building a great team of great people takes an understanding of the core values that the leadership and customers expect, right? Tell me about that. Do you have any core values that you guys live by, and how do you look at that?
Again, EOS is really that's probably one of my biggest takeaways from the book was Jim Collins, Good to Great, kind of defining the bus, right? The bus is your core values. Am I saying that right? And the seats on the bus. No, sorry. The bus is the value of your. I'm going to mess it up, so forgive me. But the core values are the seats on the bus. I think I'm botching that. So core values. It gives a great structure for the always learning, always. So relationships first is our first one. So God, family, then Diamond. Getting your priorities straight in life, I think, is huge. You want to know how to make a decision quickly. You got to know your priorities, right? And there's
okay. So relationships, God, family, and Diamond. Okay, then Diamond. Yep.
Always learning, always.
Okay, sorry, you cut off. Always learning,
always growing.
Okay.
So it's the idea that I always tell people this when I'm interviewing somebody and say, hey, one of our core values is always learning, always growing. Can you give me some examples of how you grow or whatever? I've never had anybody say, man, I don't like that core value. But what I've learned is most people like the idea of growing when things are going well. But how about when you fail? How about when you made a mistake? Do you learn from those? Do you learn from your failures? Right. So always learning, always growing. It isn't just like I'm reading books at night. Okay, that's a great start. But how do you view failure? So I think that's a big part of always learning, always growing.
I agree. I love it.
is transparency. So we were just talking about this the other day. That open and honest. I've never had somebody say, "Oh yeah, man, I don't value openness." Like in that case, everybody has that, right? Well, that's not the case. I say this: do you tell the truth even when you don't have to? Do you shield certain things, right? If you go make a mistake, how do you feel about telling me all of what you did so we can learn and grow from it? And they all kind of tie together, right? But if you're not open and honest, we can't all be always learning, right? So it's
Yep.
telling the truth even when it hurts. It's telling truth that you don't have to tell, but really just having that authenticity about, hey, this is who I am. I'm not good at everything. I'm good at this. I'm not good at this. Part of right, knowing your strengths and also knowing your weaknesses is part of that open and honest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Open and honest. I love it.
Can do attitude. I always say I don't want to work with somebody who says I can't do that. You could go somewhere else and do that. It's not a moral issue. It's not right or wrong. I just don't want to work with you. If we're going to go do something, I want to say we're going to figure it out. It's not can I do it? It's how can I do it, right? And I know you agree with me. I know that's through and through to me. It's like I will figure it out. So and then add value. John Maxwell talks a lot about adding value to others, and to me, adding value is just simply this: it's taking your God-given talent. We all have unique abilities, and applying them in your job. If you are hired for X, but your God-given talent is over here at Y, I would love to see you use your Y, right? Even in your job over here. So kind of figure out how to tap into those things that are a little bit outside of the zone. And then years ago, probably 5 years ago, we added as our sixth kind of honorary core value. We realized actually this is not true. It came after COVID. We had some people leave after COVID that we thought were great core value fits, and we said, what were they missing? And it's okay, but hey, it's like there's a grit component. When things get tough and the business isn't just skyrocketing and things aren't just doing everything you want them to do, are you willing to get down and get dirty and do the work?
I love it. I love it. And Grin, I look at, when we build teams, we want them to really have this kind of American grit. When I say that, American dream is something that we have the ability to aspire to in this country like no other country. And so, I talk about American grit. Don't sound one of my core values, but I really love the idea to think about everything we do in this country. We have this American dream that we can aspire to, whether it's a great job working in your company or mine, right? Or it's a great opportunity to lead in a company like ours, or it's a great opportunity to go out and build your company like you did and I did and many do in this great country. These aren't common anywhere else in the world. There's no other place in the world that you can do it, but you better have a little bit of grit, because in this thing we call freedom and free markets, if you're just going to go and think it's going to be easy, you're wrong.
That's right.
But if you're willing to fight, work hard, and fight for what you believe in and what you want, you can get it in this country like no other country. But it's not going to be easy, right? So that's where grit comes in. In my opinion, American grit is striving to live the American dream, knowing that you better have a little grit to do it. And I think you're an amazing example of that. What you've done in your personal life and your business life shows it, and you live it, and you're going to find people that are going to want to work for you and your business because you exude that. Tell us about your family. How many kids do you have now?
4 kids, 7, 5, 4. We have a 1-year-old, and yeah, they're amazing. Kind of a big part of that story, right? Is Thea, our 4th. She has trisomy 18, so that's in the category or the family of Down syndrome. But it's one of those that when you get the call that your child is likely to have trisomy, you get all the doctors that are saying, hey, do you want aborts? They're not going to live. Quality of life, all these questions of like the value of life come in. And so Hope and I have walked through really it started a year and a half ago, year and 3/4 ago, right? Obviously we're going to have the child. We're not going to abort. That was a no-brainer. But then you get in all these questions.
So you were told, Parker, when your baby was in the womb, at what stage that there's going to be these challenges?
I'm going to say second trimester. I'm probably wrong, but it was early. It was relatively early.
Okay, well, God bless you guys for knowing that's you didn't have a choice, right? This is your little angel, right? That's going to be born. and whatever God is going to deliver you, right? You're going to take this amazing little blessing, and you're going to feed it all the love in the world. And this little girl today is 1 year old,
Over
and
one.
and I believe that the heart, she got a heart of an angel, and God is, God is part of, looking at you every day through her eyes and say, what a great mom and dad I have, right? And she might not be able to say it, but boy, I know that she's thinking it, and God's looking through her eyes saying, those are some amazing God loving servants in this family. So really, really amazing that God is throwing this challenge at you, and I know that you're embracing it, and loving every day of your life. That He's given you this challenge, this blessing, right?
She is.
So,
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah,
so
it's encouraging.
awesome. Well, and we'll be praying. We'll be praying for little Thea for sure. And so tell us now. Okay, in your family, your kids now. You got how many girls? How many boys?
3 girls, 1 boy.
Okay, how old are they? So 7-year-old's a girl,
Yeah.
5-year-old's a boy, 5-year-old, and
And
girl
then
one, girl's 4 and 1. Are those two the oldest boy and girl? Are they liking what you do? Are they thinking that someday they want to be like daddy and mommy and run a little bit of a business in this dirty industry of paving, or what?
yeah, I don't know that they've gotten there yet. We kind of joke, and my 7-year-old says she wants to be a veterinarian, which we have no animals, and I don't really particularly love animals. So it's like, hey,
Wow, that's
yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
That's pretty cool that you don't have any animals. That's she thinks, right now at that age, that's what she wants to do. Because that's insightful. That could be crazy if she ends up being that, right?
Right.
How about your boy? Does he like the heavy equipment and the trucks and rollers and all the other things, or what?
That was a big part of our when we shifted the model. Maybe we touched on that briefly. I've told Hope sometimes, we sold all the equipment back in 2021. So maybe we should rewind to that at some point. But as soon as I had that piece of before we did, he loved it, and we would pass an excavator on the road, and yeah, he loved that. And now we're not around the equipment as much, right? So in 2021, when we moved to Charlotte, is it okay if I go into that?
Yeah, go into that because that's a great story.
Yeah, so we moved from Michigan to Charlotte for Hope's health. Again, with the mold stuff and some of that. We thought, hey, a new city, booming city, new buildings. We're kind of going through that. Like, will she ever be able to be at their swim meets or at their school? Because all the schools around us were incredibly old and full of mold. And so, the hope was, hey, we'll move and maybe she could be in church. And she's not been able to be in a church building for years. So we moved down to Charlotte, and there was this opportunity to kind of consolidate. We had the shop in Greenville, Michigan, and the office in Midland, Michigan, and then now we're in Charlotte, and then we have a shop in Greenville, South Carolina, and it's like we had a mentor, Jeff Stokes. Actually, we still work with Jeff sometimes, and he's great.
Jeff's awesome. He's an old friend of mine. I love that guy.
Yeah. So he was like, you guys have a pretty complicated model for being at the time 5 million, and he's like, you really should consider consolidating. And so that's what we did. We said, hey, we're going to move the shop from Greenville, South Carolina to Charlotte, and from Greenville, Michigan to Midland, Michigan. And in doing that, naturally, you kind of lose some people, right? And we were prepared for that, kind of, but we didn't. We thought we were. Let me say that we thought we were. We thought we'd rebuild in Charlotte, and it ended up being, hey, kind of out of necessity, we started subcontracting, and we're like, hey, maybe we should lean into this more. And so we did. And so that was kind of, in 2021, most of that year in the South, we were just fully subcontracting, trying out the model, and we're able to still make money, and things were working. And so we shifted that into Michigan, northern branch, shifted to that model. And then we opened up in Phoenix, I think in 2022, and then Florida and Texas in the last year here or so. So it obviously allows you to kind of quickly expand.
Absolutely. And you know what, you and I have talked about this, and we've got a mixture of businesses and 14 companies, and one is a national subcontracting model, Rabine America, and then our regions, every region where we have crews, we self-perform. But I gotta tell you, when I look at that, your model is an awesome model, because it's really the crews that pave are we rely on, but we can find great crews that just like to pave. They don't like doing the back office. They don't like doing sales. They're not crazy about the marketing. And all things that I wasn't crazy about initially in my business, right? And if you can partner with companies that are great at the process of putting down seal coat and asphalt and concrete, and you could be the company that's amazing at the marketing and sales and project management, you got a winner. And that's what you're doing. And we do that on a national basis, and works out really well for us, our customers, and our partners, right? And you do this on a regional basis, and you're doing a great job with it. And again, I think it's awesome to see that you kind of pivoted into this direction, partially planned, and partially probably by accident, right? And it's working out awesome for you. So I love seeing it. And there's so many different ways to run a business run businesses like ours. And it's, some people like to say small and they want to just do everything themselves. Some people want to scale and they want to try doing everything themselves, and they see it's not possible. Other people start out right from the bat, from the beginning, selling, and marketing well, and then subcontracting right from the bat. And,
That's right.
Rose Paving was an example of that, and still is. I think they do a lot more subcontracting than we ever will. But again, either model is good as long as it's best for the customer, and it's best for the customer. It's a winner. So congratulations on that change in model and it working well for you.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, when you look at your future, all right, you're at 18 million revenues and growing, and that's a good size in our industry. That's a good size company. Where do you see yourself in 5 years and 10 years? Let's just say, to throw a dart out there, 5 years away, 10 years away. And if it doesn't include partnering with Rabine, then we're gonna shut you off in the middle of this. So we won't record. So go ahead.
Of course. That's right. I love it. Man,
Okay. Just in case we don't partner, okay? Tell me 5 and 10 years.
That's right. Well, I think technology, man, you kind of nailed it. But I think some words that get me really excited are giving a great experience to our customers. One of the Hope's doctors has on their website has the experience. And I think, for a doctor's office to have that, it's like, oh wow, they're thinking about how do we make you feel when you interact with us. And I love the psychology of a customer kind of leaving an asphalt or concrete project, having that feeling of like, this was different. So, delivering a world-class customer experience, I love that. We're working hard to do that. I think we're doing that in a lot of ways, just through the communication, the automations, right? That nowadays you can get with things like HubSpot. We have some really strong triggers in there that just keep that customer updated. We call it that shipping experience. Your package has been shipped and it's about to be delivered, and you can kind of watch your project. I think that's huge. So technology. We kind of say that, I want to be humble and saying be careful, but I think being the Uber of asphalt is like, I think a lot of people, you talk about the Uber of trucking when we kind of touched base yesterday, right? I think that is kind of a North Star for us, delivering this incredibly efficient experience, right? Where people say, hey, here's a project, and we say, here's a provider, and we connect that. So we have tech teams right now that are building that behind the scenes. We don't have that fully delivered yet, but it's in the works, which is exciting. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You've been in our offices before, but that was something we talk about constantly, right? Is delivering world-class experiences and exceptional experiences to our customers. And when they can tell you and they feel that, and they can see it and feel it, right? They don't want to go anywhere else. And price is always going to be a component to deciding who does work in our industry. But price is one. I do believe that when they get that feeling that they've got somebody that cares about them so much that they're focused on delivering a world-class experience through great technology, great service, right? Great follow-up, all those things.
Right.
They don't want to go anywhere else, really, right? They will sometimes because of price, but overall, if they can say, hey, I want Diamond because of this, right? Because I feel so good when I have them on the job. Or I want buying with them because the same rate, because we feel so good when they're on their jobs. That's what our goal has to be. If it's that, we'll get there. And when we don't achieve that, we should be ready for our customers. And we've had this. I've had customers call me and say, hey, Gary, you talk about world-class, all the time. And overall, I've seen it, in your business, but I got to tell you about a not such a world-class experience I had in your business. You have to embrace that call too. That happens because that's your opportunity for amazing improvement, right? If you can respect that call from a person that cares about you, right? That tells you you didn't reach world class. They didn't feel such that experience was so great. If you can be one that jumps on top of that and figures out what went wrong, and then hopefully, make sure it doesn't happen in the future. Now you're seriously continually working for that world class experience, that exceptional experience for your customer. So I love it, and we're both been very very much in line on that. So tell me, so you're going to use technology to get better and better at everything and deliver that experience. 5 years out, 10 years out, where do you think your revenues could be?
Yeah, our 5-year projection is 100 million, and the in 5 years in 50 states. So we kind of feel that that's going to be a necessity. There are some states that as you expand, you realize don't make as much sense. Those outliers, it's like, yeah, the population's a little bit less in Montana and the Dakotas, but if you have a customer that wants you to go there, what are you going to do? And so I think, from where we're at right now, with the perspective that we have, we believe in 5 years we'll be in all 50 states, serving our customers.
10 years, where are you going to be 10 years? 5 years, that's easy. That's a drop in the bucket. You're going to get there. It's going to be like tomorrow. It's going to be 5 years. Now you're there, 100 million revenues, going to be 103 million actually. Again, 103 million revenues. Where's your next step? Where are you going to go next? 10 years out.
So I believe this. Probably 3 years ago, I would have told you this, that the B word was a silly word, but I believe in 10 years we can be $1 billion company. I have ways that I think of how we can get there. But a lot happens in 10 years, and we have a lot of energy and a lot of excitement and a lot of ideas. And, I think $1 billion is on the table. We have people on our team that have grown companies from small to $1 billion. So it's not like it's totally unfathomable. And I know the market share is there. So it's, what do they call it? BHAGs, right? You got to have that big, hairy, audacious goal, and you go after it. And 10 years revenue at $1 billion, fully delivering that Uber, hopefully it's much sooner than that, but I have a dream of just somebody clicking a button and it saying, hey, you signed the contract, and then 10 minutes later them saying, hey, your job is assigned, it's going tomorrow. I mean, that to me that's it.
Uber payments, or what do you say? Uber what?
That's a good question. I think roofing and some other horizontal markets, is that the right way to say it?
Yeah.
I don't have as clear of a vision on that, but I believe it's there. I think once you've nailed the process in paving and concrete, I think it makes sense for the same customer, right, to have access to somebody that can service all their sites and simplify, their experience of all of these different services they need to have. I mean, it blows my mind when I'm at home and I'm trying to get somebody, 3 bids to go do something in my lawn, or it's like, oh my gosh, this is so painful. Like,
so you're going to grow to be, okay. So there's a company out there that's a little like this, that's much smaller than you're talking about, but they have a roofing entity, they have a door and dock entity, a mechanical entity, a paving entity, and overall, these people are crazy entrepreneurs, and
aren't they, Gary?
But they're but they love what they do, right? So stay in touch with those guys. Will you stay in touch with those guys and continue to find some people there that know what they're doing, and keep communicating with them, and you'll get there. So that's the goal is the best of us stick together, the best of us grow together, and the best of us serve our customers better than anybody else in the world, right? I think that's kind of fun, right? If we can do that. And again, a lot of people will be like offended by that, right? By being friends with somebody, and then their goals are your goals, and they're striving for what you're doing and more than what you're doing, right? I say, God bless them, man. That's what this the country's about. That's what this industry should be about, right? Competing to be the best in the world, serving our customers better than anybody else, serving our teammates better than anybody else, and in the long run, serving God better than anybody else, right?
That's right.
I love it. Okay, so we could talk all day long, because you're my buddy, and I really respect you and love what you're doing, love who you are. I really talked to Hope, actually. She's better looking than you, and she's even more amazing than you. But you won't let me talk to her. You won't let me talk to her, okay? That's okay. Chris, Chris, come on in and tell us what you heard from our amazing young buddy here.
Parker, that's awesome, man. I can see it now, man. Your 5-year and 10-year goals. That's so exciting. You taken your bruises and learned your lessons, and it's paying dividends now, man. And I'm just so excited to you know, to watch you continue to grow, man. That's really exciting. Yeah. So my questions are really, I love that you know, during a moment of like a real challenge in your business, God brought you Ron, and then, later on when the ship stabilized, and you were no longer bankrupt on paper, you found the EOS system and traction. Can you share some of the advice and insights and kind of like, great business growing ideas that helped you to right the ship and put your business on track to, what is that, 9 and 10 figure valuations on the horizon?
Yeah. So the question is, what? One more time on the question, if you will.
Sure, sure. So what like best insights and advice, like tangible that Ron, your mentor, and that EOS have taught you to, you know, maximize the growth of your business and keep it from, going bankrupt on paper ever again.
Yeah, I didn't know what a dashboard was before I met Ron. I'll never forget. It took me about maybe a month of him saying, "Hey, what's the receivables? What's cash in the bank? And all the numbers you go through, and I'm like, hey, Hope, because she was running finance at the time, and I'm like, what are the numbers? And she's pulling up QuickBooks and trying to, and I'm like, he's like, you don't have a dashboard for this? And I was like, "No." So created a dashboard that has evolved. The scorecard is what EOS calls it. Right. Every day, I know what my numbers are. I get the report. You kind of learn what those numbers are, but that's gives you kind of he calls it we call it net variance now, but it's, just kind of that golden nugget of where's the company at it. All my debts are paid, all my money's collected, add cash in the bank. We added pending production because there's always kind of a number of like jobs that haven't been invoiced, but we have costs incurred on. And so we pull that in, and then you kind of get this like, boom, here's where the net variance is at. And I met Ron, that net variance was 200 grand upside down, and I didn't know it. So that was like, you need to know where you're at. Um, and we were pulling off of a line of credit, which is also can make that cash in your bank look bad. But if you show that as a debt, then that doesn't inflate your net variance. So anyway, knowing your numbers, I think is just critical if you want to grow. I think that's obvious, but it's huge. I would say core values, man. If you want to grow a team and look back in 5 years and say, man, I love my team. I enjoy who I work with. I don't think you can do that. EOS talks about core values in terms of kind of when you define it, you look at the people in your company that you enjoy working with and people that you don't enjoy working with. And you kind of say, what you kind of use that as your benchmark, say, what do I like about these people? What don't I like? And then you start to kind of craft those core values and realize this is kind of who we are. And then when you start to hire and fire and reward around that, you end up with a team that's very aligned, and that's fun.
Awesome. And I use it, going out of business number, that variance number, the going out of business number. If you're a bank, you're looking at this business is in trouble or this business is an amazing business, right? What's kind of like going out of business? If Gary Rabine gets $5 tomorrow, right, and we've got to figure out what we're going to do with this because nobody else is here to operate it. That's not ever going to be the case in our organization, but going out of business number. And that's basically, same thing, your net variance, right? Where all your assets, where your cash on hand, what's your receivables, payables look like, your non-collectibles, right? All that together, what's that net variance, that going out of business number? And we should always know what that is, and on a weekly basis, in my opinion, at least. And if you know that, you can inspire your team to grow that and therefore grow your enterprise value, right? And so that's a great way to look at it. And that was a great lesson you had. And I think you also learned, how to make a better than average profit too. And I know the average profits in businesses, and how to make a better than average profit because your business is sustainable and growing. You can't do that if you're just like making minimal profit or no profit. And some businesses go year after year making, almost nothing or zero. And so, you have that net profit is so important on an annual basis to really bring you value, enterprise value growth. So I see all that, and you're maturing so much as a business leader, and it's really fun to watch. Any other question you got there, Christopher?
That was my biggest one. Parker, where can our audience find out more about you?
Yeah, good question. So www.thediamondsolutions is our website. And yeah, that's probably the best. That's about more about me. I'm on Facebook. Happy to talk with anybody. Obviously, it's always fun to share stories and guys in the industry. So,
How's doing in the new location?
one more time.
Oh, how's your wife doing in the new location?
Yeah. It's it hasn't been what we thought. God has had the church that we found has been incredible, unlike any church I've ever been a part of. In terms of her health, it has been at an all-time low over the last 9 months. She was unable to talk for the last up until about 3 weeks ago. She couldn't talk. She couldn't lift her hand. She can do anything without help. So she's been really sick. Kind of full-time been on that boat for the last probably 6 months. And we made some progress. It's encouraging to see her. She walked for the first time in maybe a year, three weeks ago. So anyway, so I would say not great, but that doesn't mean, I still believe God was guiding and we're here for a reason. And there's been so much that's happened since we've been here that wouldn't have happened if we hadn't stepped out. So yeah.
Chris, as you get to know this young man, you're going to see this amazing optimism, amazing love of God, and there's nothing that's going to take away the grit of this man and his family and his business. And I love this to be around you, and I can't wait to see your success as you continue to grow, because nothing's stopping you, brother, nothing. And God's got a plan for you that's amazing. I'm excited to watch it happen. In looking back at the things we talked about today, relationships, first, right? God, family, and then company. Always learning, always growing. Transparency, of course, right? Open and honest, and the can-do attitude. The value of always adding value, and then grit. Okay, you build a business around those six values. And with a person like you leading it, and your family like you leading it, man, there's no stopping you. So I'm really proud of you and excited to see your growth. And Ditch Digger CEO, we have people on this show that are billionaires that built something that's top 1% in the world in what they do. And then we interview paving companies, and we want paving companies that are aspiring to be top 1% in their industry, and that's who you are, and you're going to get there. So. Really, really excited. People are going to learn a lot from this podcast. Parker, thanks so much for being on, buddy. You're the best.
Yeah, it's so fun. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate you guys.
God bless your brother. And we'll talk to you soon. Until next time, thanks for being a Ditch Digger CEO today. See ya.